After this lecture, you will be able to understand few issues related to forest, such as lumbering in forest and issues, wildlife resources, factors responsible for this decline, area of action, and little bit discussion. So, in this chapter, we shall discuss about the issues related to lumbering and their impact on the environment. We should realize that the method of lumbering undoubtedly influence the degradation and conservation of forest resources and wildlife. Human actions have destroyed not only the forest cover but also the dependent wildlife resources on a large scale. Therefore, it becomes imperative to recognize the problem and understand the steps that have been raised by international and national communities. Let me discuss some issues related to lumbering in forest. Lumbering in forest faces two kinds of difficulties, namely difficulties of extraction and lack of accessibility to major market. The first factor in this connection is numerous species. The occurrence of very many different species of timber in a relatively small area, some of which may be far more valuable than others, makes the location and extraction of the more valuable trees difficult and expensive. This difficulty is aggravated by the fact that trees do not occur in stands. The understory vegetation and the tangle creepers and undergrowth makes access to the desired tree difficult. The valuable trees are usually the largest, and in felling them, other trees may be destroyed or may hinder felling operations. The hug buttress roots obstruct felling operations, making the base of the trunk too large to be cut through, so that lumberjacks have to do their work above ground level. Finally, the great size of the trees, which may be several feet in diameter, and great weight of most of the valuable hardwood trees makes them extremely difficult to handle. So, let me discuss little bit on the traditional methods of extraction. In most tropical areas, the volume of logs handled in is small because for one reason or another, modern machinery is not utilized. Where the rate of extraction is small, it is not always economic to employ large plant. The timber extraction for use as domestic food in much of the Latin America and Africa is usually derived from the small trees and mechanization unnecessary. The dispersed nature of the valuable trees also inhibits the use of machinery. In most areas, however, where lumbering is now on a commercial scale, for example in Malaysia, Indonesia and some parts of West Africa, the use of machinery is becoming more and more common. Word which we know as jungle environment. What is it? Not only are tropical curve to penetrate, but roads once built are maintained because of the rapid regrowth of the vegetation. Moreover, the jungle environment is far more hospitable. The damp, hot atmosphere, the presence of insect pests and of a variety of wild animals such as tiger, elephants, as snakes, as well as the prevalence of a number of unpleasant tropical diseases all discourages the exploitation of tropical forest. Now, another issue is less elastic demand for hardwood. While some of the tropical hardwood species are very valuable and are in demand for constructional purposes, or as cabinet woods, they are not in demand for pulp and paper making. As yet, pulp making with hardwood through possible is more difficult and expensive. Moreover, tropical hardwood compete with temperate hardwoods, which though in short supply are both more accessible and more easily extracted. This factor has deterred tropical forest exploitation in and the past. But nowadays, the overall growth in demand for timber is so great and the pressure on softwood is such that exploitation of tropical forest is becoming essential if world supply of constructional timber are to be maintained. Another factor which I would like to highlight here is non-replacement of species. The tropical hardwood trees are large and take long time to mature. Moreover, the pressing need is for softwoods which can be turned easily into pulp and paper. Thus, many areas cleared of their original forest have been replanted not with the original species but with pines and other fast growing softwoods. This in the long run will make the forest less valuable as the highly priced cabinet woods and durable constructional woods will be completely exhausted, and erosion is one among them. In tropical regions where the rainfall usually very heavy, as soon as the tree cover is removed or thinned, erosion rapidly takes place. This may impoverish the soil, preventing the re-establishment of the original species. Now, let me highlight some issues related to shifting cultivation. As we all know that many forest areas in the tropics are rendered unsuitable for exploitation by the activities of shifting cultivators. These people may own the land so that it cannot be used for forestry or may encroach onto the state-owned land because of the population pressure. The forest may degenerate in terms of species because of the periodic burning or may be replaced by lalang grass or other useless vegetations. Another factor which in my previous lectures also I have highlighted a lot, that is the transportation. The heaviness of the logs and the impenetrability of the forest on the one hand and the generally underdeveloped nature of the areas in which they occur on the other hand combine to make the removal of felled logs difficult. The largest areas of tropical forest are in the underpopulated and remote Amazon and Zaire basins. The lack of communications, small labor supply and lack of a basic local market hinder development of such areas. It is notable that the best developed tropical forests are those in areas near the coast, such as Southeast Asia. Now, let me discuss few issues related to access to markets. As we know that while most of the temperate hardwood and softwood forests are located close to major industrial areas and population centers such as eastern USA and Canada, western Europe and western USSR, most tropical forests are situated in sparsely peopled areas in countries which as yet have relatively little industrial development. Thus, there is no local market to encourage the exploitation of tropical timber resources. At the same time, the tropical areas are distant from the consuming countries, so that transport cost must be added to the high cost of extraction when the timber is exported. Only those areas of the tropical forest which are relatively accessible, for example, Southeast Asia, have so far been commercially exploited. Not only are the Southeast Asian forests located at no great distance from the sea on a series of islands and peninsulas, but they are fairly close to two areas where timber demands for outstripped supplies, namely Japan, where much of the original forest cover has long been cleared, and second one is Australia, where only about 6% of the land is under forest. Now, let me discuss something about wildlife resources. World Wildlife Day is celebrated every year on the 3rd of March since 2013. The date chosen coincides with the Convention of the International Trade in Endangered Species of the World, Flora and Fauna, which was signed in 1973. The UNGA's resolution also designated the cities secretariat as the facilitators for the globe observation of the special day for wildlife on the United Nations calendar. The theme was sustaining all life on Earth. This highlights the unique place of wild flora and fauna as essential component of the world's biodiversity. This year, the year 2020, which is known as the Biodiversity Super Year, the alliance with UN Sustainable Development Goals 1st, 12th, 14th and 15th and their wide-ranging commitments on elevating poverty, ensuring sustainable use of resources and on conserving life both on land and below water to halt biodiversity losses. So, you should know that how these components has been highlighted in the Sustainable Development Goals of UN. The first goal in this connection is Goal 1, as I mentioned, that is no poverty or poverty reduction. Goal 12th is responsible consumption and production. Goal 14th is life below water and goal 15th is life on land. I will quote a statement here in this connection that biodiversity refers to all the varieties of life that can be found on earth, whether it is plant, animal, fungi and microorganism, as well as to the communities that they form and the habitat in which they live. So, let me also discuss the Indian scenario in this connection. India has 2.4% of the global land share, about 8% of global biodiversity and around 16% of the global population. However, it has lost 12% of its wild mammals, 19% amphibians, 3% birds over the last 5 decades. India's ecological footprint per person is less than 1.6 global hectare, but its high population size has made the gross footprints significantly high. Now, you may be aware of the word ecological footprint. What is this? It is the amount of the environment necessary to produce the goods and services necessary to support a particular lifestyle. After that, I would like to describe little bit on the factors responsible for the decline. What are the factors that since 1970 till now there is a continuous degradation in the biodiversity at global level? During the colonial period, due to expansion of the railways, agriculture, commercial and scientific forestry and mining activities, the greatest damage was inflicted on the Indian forest. Agriculture expansion continues to be one of the major causes of depletion of forest resources post-independence too. Loss of forest is also due to large-scale development projects like river valley projects, which caused clearing of more than 5,000 square kilometers of forest since 1951. Deforestation is also caused by mining, as in Buxa tiger reserves in West Bengal, which is seriously threatened by the ongoing dolomite mining. The greatest degrading factors behind the depletion of forest resources are grazing and fuel wood collections, according to many foresters and environmentalists. So, India's biodiversity has declined due to habitat destruction, hunting, poaching, overexploitation, environmental pollution, poisoning and forest fire. Environmental destruction is also due to unequal access, inequitable consumption of resources and differential sharing of responsibilities for environmental well-being. So, there is an immense need for conservation efforts. Because the health of nature is intimately linked to the health of humans, the emergence of new infectious diseases like COVID-19 tend to be related to the destruction of forest and wilderness. Healthy ecosystems are the foundation of today's global economies and societies, and the ones we aspire to build. As more and more species are drawn toward extinction, the very life support systems on which civilization depends are eroded. As per the World Economic Forum, biodiversity loss is a disturbing threat with few parallels like extreme weather events, climate change, severe economic inequality, etc. In response to the conservationist demand, the Indian Wildlife Protection Act came into action in the year 1972. This act provided several provisions for protecting habitat. The primary agenda of the program was to protect the remaining population of certain endangered species by banning hunting, giving legal protection to their habitats, and restricting trade in wildlife. For this, the central and the state governments established different national parks and wildlife sanctuaries. The central government has also come up with different projects for protecting specific animals which were gravely threatened, including the tiger, the one-horned rhinoceros, and others. In the year 1973, Government of India came up with the Project Tiger to save the endangered species of tiger in the country. So, what are the areas of action? The first one is conservation reserves. There must be renewed ambitions from the world government to establish large-scale conservation areas placed in the most valuable hotspots for biodiversity worldwide, such as a small island with species found nowhere else. Management is more important than the size of the reserves. Habitat restoration and conservation efforts need to be targeted where they are needed most, for species and habitats on the verge of the extinction. Food production. Need is to transform our food system to produce more on less land. If every farmer on the earth used the best available farming practices, only half of the total area of the cropland would be needed to feed the world. There are lots of other inefficiencies that could be ironed out too, reducing waste and favoring healthier and more environmentally friendly diets. Restoring land here, because efforts to restore degraded land are also required, such as farmland that's becoming unproductive as a result of the soil erosion. This could return 8% of the world land to nature by 2050. And in this connection, the next step is afforestation. This can help not only in arresting soil erosion, but also expansion of desertification along with avenues for biodiversity replacement. So, discussions of the today's lecture helps us in understanding that forests have been very significant for the development of human civilization. However, human greed and growing demand for forest resources has negatively impacted the forest resources and their stakeholders. Large-scale deforestation has wiped out thousands of species of flora and fauna, leading to extinction of biodiversity. Though late, but some significant steps are being taken by international as well as national agencies to reserve the negative impact of degrading forest resources and conserve the biodiversity.